So, what is going on, guys? Today we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Sideswipe. This is the Dark of the Moon version. I don't remember the exact number. I think it might be in the 30s. I'm not 100% on that. But this is the initial release of Sideswipe. And I've had this guy for a bit, and apparently this guy has become quite sought after as of late. As well, he is probably the best version of movie Sideswipe that is available. I'd say available, but he's not. I'm sure soon enough we'll get a pack that's like the Revenge of the Fallen Decepticons, because they did that for the, first movie with the Decepticons and the Autobots. So I'm sure we'll get something along those lines someday, soon. But as far as it goes with this guy, this is the better mold. And I say the Revenge of the Fallen version isn't as good as this one, mainly because this one has a lot less kibble. This one turns into a convertible, so it doesn't have a roof, whereas the other one does, and apparently it reworks the whole backpack thing, and it's just not as good as this version. This one here is really nice, though, however. It does have the swords, which we'll talk about in a bit, but the only issue I have with the swords, just out the gate, as you've seen, this one over here is really loose. They just tab into the hands, but we'll show that a little bit better here in a minute, so we'll just get rid of those for the time being. And as far as it goes, he is primarily in the gray color schemes. He has a bit of this kind of more silvery gray for the legs. While on top of that, he obviously has silver paint, but it's not as much as you'd probably expect. It really only appears in the car parts. So these would be the rear taillights, and then over here we have the sides of the car there, and then on the back, as I showed earlier, the hood of the car is silver, and then down here we have like bits of the fender, and then the front headlight area of the car as well. Along with that, he does actually have a painted Corvette logo, which is pretty neat. He also has some gunmetal gray down there in the chest, which looks really good. I do like the look of that. It does look quite nice. The head sculpt, speaking of looking quite nice, is very good as well. He also has light piping, yes, because this is light piping error, is it? Yeah, he does. But it is painted over. He does have it, it's just painted over. So he does have the, as you can see, it is glowing. It's not blue, it's white though, which is the weird part. And the head sculpt looks pretty accurate to what it looked like in the movies. And I mean, I don't really have any complaints about the look of the figure. I do think it looks pretty solid. I mean, there's nothing really to hate here. The only thing I kind of dislike is there's not really anywhere to store his swords, which I kind of say there is and isn't, because you can kind of put them in these hip slots, but if you move the hip, it's going to pop out. But if he's just standing there on a shelf with them not equipped, you can just do this. That's my recommendation. It actually makes him look cooler because he has side skirts. I love side skirts. I don't know why. But, yeah, that's what you can do with these if you're not using them, type of thing. But as far as it goes, let's take a look at the accessories real quick, and then we'll get into some articulation. Accessory-wise, we have his guns and swords. Now, also don't mind this. I don't know how this got this messed up after, like, 2 reviews, but it did. Oh, well. It only shows up for a second. As far as it goes, the 2 swords here are nice. They are parts forming, however, as they are actually important. Meaning, if you get this guy secondhand without his swords, which would be a shame anyway, because movie Sideswipe's whole thing is the swords, I mean, the car wouldn't be complete, as these form a good chunk of the side doors. Oh no. Yeah. So these are actually very, very important, meaning if you don't have them, it's over. We then have his 2 guns, which are pretty basic, generic double-barrel guns. They're kind of like pistol shotgun things. They have a bit of paint on the top here with the black and some silver. Makes them look a little bit better than if they had nothing, of course. And just to show Sideswipe with those in his hands, of course. So the guns, they work pretty basic, as you would probably expect. They just, slot in. Just like so. Ta-da! Guns. And you can pull out all the poses you want with them. And then we have the swords. So for the swords, there's a slot on the hand, and then there's a small tab on the sword itself. in which, like I mentioned, you just put these on here. Now, one side does have the detailing of being stuck on, but unfortunately, if I do that way with this hand, it just falls out immediately, so I have to actually do them this way, which kind of sucks, because like I said, this is the actual sword detailed side. But it still looks good, nonetheless, and it is nice. I do miss the old one, though. The old versions of Sideswipe, they just flip up over the arm and everything. I miss that, but oh well. It's fine. Now for the articulation, this is actually pretty alright. It has a ball joint in the head, which is pretty good. Forward is limited by this thing. Now, by these little chest thingies, they kind of are on ball joints and can move. But for the most part, it will limit your outward movement to like that. You can't get straight forward. You can get straight back, though. It does have an elbow, does have a swivel. No hand rotation, which is a bit of a shame. It'd be a little bit nice if he had that. It does have a waist rotation, but is blocked by this chunk, which ironically stores the guns. How, you might ask? Tab on the side, slot there, and then the gun just goes in. That's it. That's just the storage. So you do have a bit of a rotation at the thigh, and then you have his weird knees. So they go back, but then there's another joint down here, which is mostly for transformation, but is there. And he does not have a ankle tilt. Why? Because it's just he has weird legs. He has the weird wheel legs, so they can't just work that in there. To transform Sideswipe, it is an alright time. I actually broke him transforming him once upon a time, and we'll see that in the alt mode. But as far as it goes, fold in the hands like so, and then you can come to the back and flip this down. That then will allow you to be able to rotate this around like so. Flip that down. You then gain access to the chest fully. You have a little bit of access. The arms will simply just fold out like this. So just fold them up and then out and then kind of hinge them down a little bit until they look like that. So we're going to do the back end first, as that is the harder part of the transformation. The front end's really easy. One thing to worry about with this guy, though. Translucent plastic on these things. They are completely translucent. They're just painted silver. So be worried about that, if anything. This is also translucent plastic, and I'm not sure. This isn't. This back section isn't, but the whole front hood area is. Man, I hate that whole era of let's make this whole thing translucent, which is spooky. This probably was, I have no idea, but as you can see probably now, there's a giant crack there because, yes, I cracked it off while transforming it a couple of years ago. It's just glued on there, and it looks a little ugly, but oh well. It is a shame. I'm not reselling this guy anyway, because Sideswipe's my favorite character, so, yeah, it just sucks it was Sideswipe, if I'm being honest, but it is, nonetheless, still something to watch out for. That is a pretty brittle part. It's a thin, brittle part. That is not nice. And the part that I broke it on is the part that you just seen there. It is a really odd step. Everything has to be in the right spot. If it is not, then it will absolutely ruin your day. As you can see, that kind of has that weird, like, one tab on one side and then two on the back section thing going on. Which, like I said, I'm going to try to get that in there. So now with that in there, we can actually do weapon storage, weirdly enough. So we do have a full access here to the weapon storage. Now I got that part there. You can take the guns, and with the tabs that I mentioned that store in the robot mode, they actually will slot into the hand area. And when you do that, you can actually take these and put them in like so. That'll just give you more exhaust. Now he has 8. That makes sense. He needs all those. And then the next step here is to take the feet. So you're going to just start on the feet, which is by folding them out like so at the silver part, and then fold in this part like that. You're then going to flip them over like that. And then you're going to take the side bits and fold them out into one full part. Take the legs, peg them together, Fold them up. As I mentioned, the legs are the easy part of this transformation. They are not hard at all. They're actually really, really easy to get in place. And then finally, as I mentioned, you do need the swords. And without them, the alt mode is incomplete. As you can see, there's just some massive gaps, which is a bit of a shame if I'm being honest with you. It just sucks. It really does suck. And so with the swords on, we now have Sideswipe's alternate form. And Sideswipe's alternate form looks beautiful. It is completely covered in silver paint, as you would have expected. It looks beautiful because of it. There is paint chips on it. This thing's older. This was like 2018, right? Like, this was like still in like the earlier stages of the Studio series when this thing came out. So this thing is old. And as far as it goes with him, he does look pretty good. I mean, I don't have any major issues with this alt form, except for maybe the gaps that are within the seats here. And again, this being brittle and breaking. That's my fault entirely, I know. It is still a little bit of an annoyance that it did break like that. I just realized this is not in there right. This here just looks really good. The only thing that slightly bothers me, you may have noticed it, is the tires. They are not painted, which is a little annoying. It's just a little weird. But that's really it for the alt form. Does it roll? No, it doesn't. Tragic. But let's just get to my final thoughts on the figure. And for my final thoughts on Sideswipe, I do think he is pretty good, but is he worth all of the upchargy prices at the moment? Probably not, honestly. He's old enough to the point where, like I said at the beginning of the video, I think he's going to get a re-release soon. Maybe not this one, but the other one. And this one is the one that I think most people do want. And, I mean, eventually they're going to do it. They're just going to keep doing it. They can't not. They're either going to end up going back to these movie figures and redoing them again, or they're going to re-release them. It's just how it has been as of late. And I think Hasbro has finally just realized that they may have peaked with the Transformers line. This is the peak of it at this moment in time. I don't know how half of these designs can get any better. Like, it is genuinely, like, how do you do better with most of this modern engineering? You have put everything into these, and they work. Everyone loves them. It's almost impossible to just go out and be like, yeah, let's do this again. I don't think they can. Maybe in like 10 years, 10, 15 years. But like right now, I know this guy's older than I'm making it out to be, because 2018 is still 6 years ago, which is insane. But, I mean, as far as it goes, he is great. He isn't the best figure in the world, though. So, out of my scaling of 5, I am going to give him a 4. Mostly because that back transformation is a bit too clashy for me, in my opinion. These do have occasional issues. Like I said, they fall out quite easily. I mean, accessory-wise, I wish these had better storage than possibly on the hips, but that's just kind of a problem on its own. And I mean, as far as it goes, there's a lot of clever bits to this figure, but the other thing that's a very big deterrent is the lack of forward. You have to go out and then forward. You can't just go straight forward because of the chest piece, which I love this design for his chest, but it's a bit clashy. But that's really all I have to say about this figure. So this has been a review of Studio Series Sideswipe from Dark of the Moon. This has been Eilt Elite signing out.